First and foremost, good morning, you guys. How are you doing? All right, let's try one more time. Good morning, Miami. How are you doing? This is actually my first time in Miami, so I'm hoping that you guys will give me a great first impression. As I mentioned, my name is Mandela Schumacher Hodge. I'm the Global Director of Education Entrepreneurs, a community within a broader organization called Up Global. I am extremely honored to be here. As I mentioned, this is my very first time, and I'm very excited to kind of give you my biggest lessons learned and advice that I've experienced as I've progressed on my journey from starting as a teacher in South Central Los Angeles, teaching middle school to students. And then I went on to progress as a school administrator in Pacoima, California, at a school. And then I went on to actually be an ed tech founder of a company in Silicon Valley. And then finally, and most recently, I am the director of the largest community in the world of education entrepreneurs. By the end of this presentation, I'm hoping that you guys will walk away with some tangible steps on how you can utilize entrepreneurship to improve education. But before I do that, I actually would like to tell you about a young man named Justin. So is it okay if I start out with a story? You guys cool with that? All right, awesome. So Black Tech Week, I'd like you guys to meet Justin. Justin is a vibrant, energetic 8-year-old boy. He loves Legos. If anyone knows the Nintendo Super Smash Brothers game, he's all about Donkey Kong, so don't mess with him. He also is really into math, and even still today, every morning when he wakes up, he checks on his fridge to see if his honor roll certificate is there from 2nd grade. But not everything's sunshine and rainbows in Justin's world. In fact, just last week, he was diagnosed with ADHD. And so now a worker comes into his classroom about twice a week to pull him out for remedial instruction. This actually has had a pretty significant effect on how he's seeing himself, because for the first time, he's seeing himself as different and not necessarily in a good way. Another thing that's important to note about Justin's story is that the adults in his life, like his teachers, who are already overwhelmed with a huge workload and are not also well equipped to handle this need that Justin has, they're not noticing it. Also, when you talk about his school, completely overcrowded. And so his school administrators don't necessarily have the resources or the time to actually get a second opinion. And then finally, Justin's mother is really busy with just maintaining her job as well as raising Justin's 2 younger siblings. So what effect does this have on Justin? He starts to change. He starts to withdraw from school. He's not as engaged anymore. He also is starting to fall behind, and he's questioning his ability to keep up or to ever get ahead again. As his teenage years set in, also things like peer pressure, also really caring about his social life, take over. And again, he downplays his intelligence, really focuses on building out his social life. And before we know it, by the end of his high school career, he's barely graduating and doesn't have many transferable skills to actually apply to the workforce. But Justin's story is not a unique one. In fact, millions of young Black boys and girls, as well as low-income students, are faced with the same problems that Justin has faced in this story. Whether it's because of disabilities, or if it's because of lack of access to a great education, or lack of opportunity, or even a lack of parental guidance, a lot of students are falling through the cracks. And I just want to share a couple stats with you guys to kind of drive this point home. Many of you have already maybe know about this, but in case you haven't, please pay attention to these numbers. When students are entering 4th grade, by the end of 4th grade, they are actually already 2 years behind their peers, 2 years. And when they enter 12th grade, before they even graduate, they're 4 years behind. When you talk about how many students there are, about 18% of all students in the public education system here in America are Black. But nearly half of those students, who are all Black, are suspended more than once. Also, only about 50% of Black students are graduating from high school, whereas their white and Asian peers are graduating at a rate of 3/4. When we talk about the higher levels of education, like Miami-Dade College, and how many of our students are actually getting degrees in computer engineering and computer science, only 4.5% of all degrees in computer engineering, computer science are going to Black students. And then we talk about getting a job in the real world. About 12% of the workforce is made up by blacks, but only 2% are actually getting employed in the tech field. But what if things didn't have to be like this? What if there was a way that we could use entrepreneurship, we could use technology to develop solutions, perhaps that created applications or websites where students who had disabilities or who were falling behind in class could actually keep up or go at their own pace, scaffolded instruction, differentiated instruction? What if there was an app or a website where students could get those real world experiences that they're going to need once they graduate from high school? Well, I'm here to tell you about my organization. It's called Education Entrepreneurs, and we believe that entrepreneurship can be used to create incredible learning experiences for people all over the world. I'm going to take a couple of minutes just to show you guys what our programming is so you can get a sense of how we're actually putting this belief into action. So the very first thing you need to understand about our organization is that we believe entrepreneurship is not just one straight shot. You don't just go from point A to point B and you're a success story. We truly do believe that there are stages to entrepreneurship, various stages. And so what we do is we develop programming and resources to meet entrepreneurs at every stage of their journey. So how many of you have aspirations to maybe start your own business one day? Anyone in the audience? I hope so. I hope maybe that's why you're here. Awesome. You're probably going to start at stage 1 with us. Or maybe you already have learned a lot about entrepreneurship, whether it's from this summit you've experienced this week or other experiences. Once you guys do that, you'll progress on in our journey, and I'm going to walk you through a couple of our key programs. Our first main program is called Startup Weekend Education. I actually believe there was a woman from Jamaica speaking about Startup Weekend yesterday, and we also have a panelist coming up later in the day who won a competition. Has anyone here in the audience actually heard of Startup Weekend before? Okay, a couple people. All right. Startup Weekend Education is basically a weekend-long event. So think about Friday. Today's Friday. Basically, at 6 o'clock tonight, a group of people such as yourselves would come together in a room just like this, and everyone gets 60 seconds to come on stage and pitch their idea. Pitch the problem that they have and maybe the solution they're thinking about developing with it. The next stage is basically we vote on ideas. So maybe everyone in the room pitches. Then we're going to go through a democratic voting process where you get to decide which 3 ideas are your favorite. Beyond that, what's going to happen is you form teams with people with complementary skill sets. So when I went to my first event, I was an educator. And then what I did was I recruited business people, I recruited developers, I recruited designers, I recruited marketing people, all the people who had complementary skill sets to myself. And in 54 hours, we built an MVP. An MVP is a minimal viable product. It's basically the most basic thing you can build in a weekend to show that you have developed a solution, a first solution to your problem. So by Sunday night, I've actually come out with a company, a working model, and a business plan. So that's our main program that we run around the world. And so just to give you an idea of how we put our beliefs into action. Our program has actually evolved into several iterations. So at a Startup Weekend Education, most of what's coming out there is phone applications or websites. But now we've created a program called Next Gen Schools, where we're actually bringing people together in that same 54-hour model I just described, but they're redesigning school. So why does school mean one teacher, 30 students, and 4 walls? Why is that the best way to learn? We actually give people the opportunity to redesign school. So has anyone in here ever heard of the Magic School Bus or read of those books or watched those TV shows? Awesome. So we had an event in San Francisco last week where the second place team was actually called the Magic School Bus. And rather than keeping kids confined into a classroom, they would take kids on learning experiences in their neighborhood to learn skills. So again, I just wanted to let you guys know that 2 schools have actually come out of ours that have launched in Oakland, California, as well as San Francisco. Another iteration of our programming is youth. So imagine you guys. How many of you are students in here? Can anyone show? You all look young, so I'm hoping you're students for sure. So imagine you guys getting an opportunity to have a student only start at weekend, where you guys, probably for most of the first time in your lives, you guys are getting the opportunity to say what you want to learn, how you best learn, what educational success looks like to you. So we actually have youth-only events. Our first one was in Brooklyn, New York, that took place last year with a group of high schoolers, and then we had a second event for middle schoolers out in Silicon Valley, and they actually got to go to Facebook. If you guys, it's a little fuzzy, but that's Sheryl Sandberg in there at Facebook. So again, we also have a network where we're able to give students really great opportunities if they win or if they have a great experience to progress on. And then lastly, we have college editions. So I think most of you are in college here. So again, we can do college-only events as well. We have education workshops, so maybe you don't want to spend 54 hours doing this. Maybe you just want a little taste of it, just a little sample. We have 2-hour workshops where you can actually learn how to build an education business, and we have 2 specific topics up here. Aside from that, we also have Startup Digest, we have summits, we have a bunch of other things that you guys can find out about later. But again, I wanted to give you a little glimpse as to how we turn our belief that entrepreneurship is a viable means to improve education and how we put that into action. So just so you guys are aware, we're actually a global movement. Over the past year, we've scaled incredibly. In 2013, we had 12 events, just a dozen in 1 year. This past year, in 2014, we've scaled to 61 events. In 2013, we were in 2 continents, North America and Europe. Now we're in 6 continents. So as you guys can see, we're creating an unprecedented opportunity for anyone, anywhere, to create incredible learning opportunities for students. And so what can you guys do? This is the part of the presentation where I'm actually going to ask you to get your phones out. As you know, I started as a teacher, and I would always tell my students to put their phones away, but I'm going to give you some resources right now that I actually do want you to take pictures of, utilize, follow up on. It's going to be a lot of information. I won't be able to get through all of it, but at least you'll have a glimpse to take home with you later. So again, these are 5 things that you can do if you are interested in building your own education venture, if you're interested in solving your problem. The first and most important thing is you have to listen. Has anyone heard of design thinking? I know there was a session on it yesterday. If you don't know what design thinking is, it's a great framework to enlist if you are going to build a product, if you are going to build a business. The number one thing you need to do is listen and observe. A lot of people build products and then they go try to find solutions to attach them to. That's the wrong way to do it. What you guys need to do if you're interested is first go and sit in a classroom, watch the teachers, watch the students. If you're doing a consumer product and you're selling direct to parents, go into the homes, watch how the parents are interacting with their children, identify the problems, but just watch. Like a great researcher, first step is watching. Whether you're doing that with teachers, the students, the parents, another key aspect of it is if you're going to build a business that is going to try to get into schools, you need to understand who the players are. You need to understand who the decision makers are. Oftentimes, it's not the teacher. Oftentimes, it's the principal. Or even beyond that, it's the superintendent. Or even beyond that, it's the school board. Or even beyond that, it's the government, whether state or federal. So you guys also need to understand the way the school system operates and how people make decisions. So take the time to listen and learn about that. Does anyone know who Arne Duncan is? All right, a couple people. Does anyone know who Joe Biden is? All right, does anyone know who Barack Obama is? Awesome. All 3 people you're going to need to know if you want to build a business in education. I saw a lot of hands up for the latter 2, so I'm going to start with the first one. Arne Duncan is the U.S. Secretary for the Department of Education. So what he's doing is he's setting the entire agenda for what public schooling looks like in America. If you're going to build a business in education, you have to be up to speed with what the latest education policy is to see if it's actually whatever you're building, does it align to policy or does it not? Am I going to have a tough time or am I going to have an easy time? So again, step 1 is listening. Listening to teachers, students, school leaders, as well as the politicians setting our agenda. And there's a teacher you were supposed to see, and here comes the parent. Look at that. Oh my gosh, it's awesome. And then we have the school leaders, and then finally our 3 guys. All right, step 2. This is important. So If you are serious about solving a problem in education, building business, you need to understand that there are great resources out there. First and foremost, in your far left, you're going to see EdSurge. EdSurge is the leading news source for anything ed tech. So if you guys want to go on, they have something called an ed tech index. They list out every single educational product in the world. And they list it by category. They tell you what teachers are thinking about it. It's a great place to go if you're looking for a product or you want to do some competitor analysis. Other resources are the Our Education Entrepreneurs blog 4.0. And if you guys are big on Twitter or Facebook, I put up two of the most popular groups I know of that are discussing how do we use technology and entrepreneurship to improve education. So again, if you want to snap a picture, I'll give you a second. Make sure you get down these resources because more are gonna come. All right, slide number 3. So startup. So you guys have watched, you paid attention. Next, you've actually gotten some more resources. It's time to do it. You guys, stop talking about what you're going to do. Stop telling me about the problems you see. Stop complaining. Do something. That's my challenge to you. Actually do it. There's 3 great opportunities you have to actually take action. Number 1, as I mentioned, are our workshops, about 2 hours long. If you want to do a weekend of actually turning your idea into a startup, there's Startup Weekend Education. And then our partner, 4.0 Schools. They have a great 3-day program. It's based in New Orleans as well as New York City. They'll fly you in and you'll get to actually develop and find product market fit over a 3-day span. This is a good one. So how many of you guys think mentors are important? Whether you're in school, in your life, and getting a job, absolutely. There are tons of mentors out there who are interested in supporting you guys as you're developing your product. A lot of these mentors, actually nearly all of them, give you tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars actually to help you. Okay, so the first row you see up there, starting with Startup Next, 4.0 Schools Launch, Camelback Ventures. These are all people who are willing to help you before you actually raise any money. And when I say raise any money, it means when I build a product and I actually want to employ people, I want to scale it, I go and talk to an investor potentially who is someone who invests money in a company, and I pitch them the same way I'm talking to you guys right now. I say, hey, I have a great idea for a company. I'm really excited about this. Is the research I've done. Can I have $100,000 to get it off the ground, right? So what you'll see here is those conversations start to take place. These are accelerators, so what happens is you have to apply to get in. They review your application. Oftentimes they interview you, and if you're accepted, you get anywhere from 3 months to 6 months of coaching with their elite group of mentors, and you also get money. So the second row here is Imagine K-12, Kaplan Techstars Learn, Launch, and Collab. Does anyone ever heard of Zynga or Farmville? Everyone ever heard of Farmville? Okay, Farmville, that's made by a company called Zynga, and Collab is actually based in Zynga. They're all about doing education games. So if you guys are really into gaming, but using games to teach people stuff, that's the accelerator you would be interested in. And then lastly, the bottom row, you'll see Aspire, GSV Labs, and then also Runway. These are what we call post accelerators. So those companies that are already in existence, maybe they have some traction, which means that they're in a couple schools around the country, but they're really looking to take their business to the next level. They would apply to those accelerators. But again, you guys, step 4 is all about finding mentors. Step 5 is who has the big bucks out there who are really investing. Now, K-Port Capital is actually a sponsor of this event. They were also my investor for my first company. They're specifically interested, you guys, in minority entrepreneurs, social impact ventures, specifically in education, but not limited to that. You have new schools, GSV. There are people around the country who are investing millions of dollars into people who want to solve problems in education. So this is very important for you guys to understand that it's not just you who cares about this. There are a lot of other people out there who are also willing to give you resources and guidance. So again, I see a lot of people taking pictures. This is a big one, so make sure you guys copy it down so you know who to talk to after I'm off the stage for you to kind of pursue your venture. All right. So with all that said, as I look around the room and I close out here, I see a lot of driven, ambitious, skillful, intelligent, capable people. My challenge to each and every one of you before I step off is to ask you, what will you do to make a positive difference in education? Whether or not you actually go off and launch a venture or not, doesn't matter. What we in this room and outside this room decide to do about education today will impact how many more Black entrepreneurs we see in this auditorium next year. And it will also ultimately impact how many Black and minority entrepreneurs we actually have to collaborate with, to build businesses with. So it's all of our responsibilities. And with that said, don't forget about Justin and the opportunity we have to write a different narrative, a better narrative for him. A narrative that involves him not just graduating from high school, but also graduating from college and progressing on to be a leading trailblazer in the field of entrepreneurship and technology. Thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it.